So the first team is PMaster, and they will talk about proposal for MEPC new output on PM emission from ships. So please welcome PMaster.
Good afternoon. This is Team PMaster.
This team will present about proposal for MEPC new output on PM emission from ships.
This delegation wishes and hopes that this presentation will helpful not only for market environment but also for our clean future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, we would like to express our sincere thanks to the organizer of this assembly, Honorable President of the Assembly, Secretary General of IMO, distinguished delegates, and excellencies from all over the world. Very good afternoon to professors and experts of NGO and IGO. It's a great honor to have a chance of this presentation. As we all know, we live in a place either highly developed and still developing. As industry of our world is being changed dramatically at a very rapid pace, the air pollution problem, especially particulate matter problem, is getting more and more serious than ever. In this context, IMO has set the direction of its 6-year strategic plan. They established one of the directions in SD3, respond to climate change. In accordance with this, we would like to present proposal for MEPC new output on PM emission from ships, as detailed discussion on SD3. This presentation will proceed in the following order. Particulate matter, PM, is a particle which is much tinier than human hair. It's divided into PM10 and 2.5 according to the diameter of a particle. And it's composed of primary PM represented by black carbon and secondary PM created through interaction of pollutants. Is effect of PM on human health. WHO classified PM as a group 1 carcinogen. And the higher concentration of the PM, the higher mortality rate around the world. The effect of PM on environment. PM causes acid rain and damages environment in the form of black carbon. Black carbon increases the temperature in the atmosphere by absorbing solar energy and affects global warming. Black carbon is the second largest contributor to GHG after CO2, and it can also be transported across the globe. These data show particulate matter is a worldwide problem. But the real problem that maritime industries should pay attention to is that it is being emitted from ships. According to the data by Nature, PM concentration is being measured high along the shipping lanes. High levels of PM are observed at 10 ports in Asia area. Among these, we will proceed using several ports. First, in China, high levels of PM are observed in 3 hotspot regions where large ports are located. Among 10 ports announced by Nature, 7 ports in China all are in these 3 hotspot regions. Next, Busan Port in South Korea. The ratio of PM emission from ships to total emission of Busan City account for significant amount. And black carbon, which is a fraction of PM, is also measured high around the world, especially in Arctic regions along the course of ships. Additionally, the ratio of PM According to the statistics of South Korea, the ratio of PM emission from ships to total emission and the amount of PM emission of mobile pollution sources are significant. Despite the fact that PM emission from ships has been currently serious, it only remains under discussions led by related institutions, and no single direct regulations dealing with PM only in MARPOL. Although MARPOL refers to PM as the title of sulfur oxides and particulate matter, it is only referring to PM accompanied by emission of SOx. Now, I will invite the next speaker who will explain current cases for abating PM.
Thank you for introducing. In this part, this delegation would like to show current cases for abating PM. Those may be a reference regarding what we are trying to propose. Here are some examples of counterplan taken by nations to reduce PM. Korea has own plan to reduce port PM by more than 50% by 2022. China also has a set of aims which consist of paces called China. At China 5, reduction rate is expected to be 92%. On the table, each category has PM emission limitations, and these countries implement some policies to reduce PM. The first policy is ECA. Korea implement their own ECA apart from the IMO ECA. This policy has been taken effect from this September and will be applied in order of berthing and anchoring ships and navigating ships. China also applied their own ECA called DECA. DECA coincides with aforementioned 3 hotspot regions which has high concentration of PM. PM emission in Chinese ECA of Greater Pearl River Delta is expected to be reduced by 52% in 2030 compared to 2015 as shown in the table. This picture shows comparison of PM concentration of 2015 and 2030. In accordance to US EPA study in 2010, PM has been reduced by 74% at the North American ECA. In addition, according to the study about Mediterranean Sea, emission of PM would be reduced 23.7% if ECA is established. Next policy is VSRP. In Korea, ships participating in this program should reduce their speed to recommended speed when passing through VSR zones. Ship owners would get a benefit like port entry and leave fees discount in return. For Los Angeles Port and Long Beach Port, USA, VSRP sea areas are 20 and 40 nautical miles. Ships that enter these areas with speed at or slower than 12 knots will have their berthing rate reduced. There are some advantages of VSR like these. 2 graphs shows that as the speed of vessel decrease, fuel consumption and emissions both are reduced. There are some technical cases that can be helpful to reduce PM when applying with policy cases. And in accordance to SD 3.3, some reduction actions are being discussed at IMO to reduce BC from ships. Reduction actions include prohibition of HFO, installation of DPF, and establishing ECA, etc. This delegation would like to introduce the next speaker who will speak about conclusion.
Thank you for introducing me. As we have said so far, this team would like to suggest the need for discussions for legislation of a new regulation. So this delegation would like to suggest three-step work plan, which has an ultimate goal for regulation, making new regulations. So this is three-step work plan. This is the direction for the discussion for legislation of new regulation for the control of PM from ships. So the phase 1 will be considering precedent conditions for new regulation, and phase 2 will be selecting effective abatement options. And then lastly, phase 3, legislating regulations. So from this phase, for the phase 1, the member state should consider these 4 prerequisite conditions, such as current situation, measuring method, abatement strategies, and the applicability. Firstly, check the current situations on like emission problems and damage by PM and some ongoing discussions for this matter. And then we should identify the measurement differences between the PM and BC, and then select the most highly effective abatement strategies in terms of policies and technology. And for the applicability, we should consider the differences between the nation's technology level and the directions of policies. So this is phase 2. From phase 2, here are some several options, recommended options by us, and some considerations are in each boxes. So first of all, for the establishment of PECA, comply with the current registration process of IMO for ECA as stated in MARPOL Annex 6, Appendix 3. And PECA should be established in the area where the PM emission problem is severe. And the area will be kind of waters where the IMO had not addressed yet for the control of PM from ships. And lastly, regulatory level should be set based on the upcoming PM regulation in the near future. And let's move on to applying of VSRP. For the VSRP, the consideration of implementation for VSR should include these 4 things: reduction rate of speed, VSR program zone, and speed monitoring, and then compensations for ship owners and charterers. On the other hand, in the technical aspects, the use of DPF would be the most recommended option by us among the same exhaust treatment systems. Those 2 graphs show that the significant gap, at least 90%, between the before and after data of the emission. In the third phase, the target value should be set considering the effect of the reduction method, like that sentence on the top of the screen. And this team would like to propose that a specific and applicable and independent PM emission regulation should be established through the aforementioned process, the 3-work plan. Additionally, it is suggested that the adoption of reduction measures that can help to increase the effectiveness of the PM reduction be recommended. In conclusion, this team has reviewed and contemplated 10 IMO considerations for proposing new output, which will be high priority in terms of necessity, urgency, and the economic benefits, its effect is much greater than the input cost for PM reduction. Thus, this team would like to request kindly the Assembly to consider above proposal and approve the new output into MEPC's biannual agenda. And these are the references. Thank you very much for your sincere attention.
Thank you. So if you have any questions, please raise your hands. Yeah, from Judge.
Thank you for your good presentation. The reducing air pollutant is a very critical issue to my national society and also the international shipping industry as well. My concern is that, as you presented, the sulfur content of fuel oil, so-called IMO sulfur cap 2020, already has been implemented since this January. It means that the sulfur emission from the shipping is already decreased approximately 80% before that of the shipping industry. The emission of the particulate matters also deeply related to the sulfur content. So we assumed that the the emission of PM is much decreased since this January. My concern is that in international shipping society might be claimed why your proposal is needed in this time being. That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Could we have some time for discussion?
Yep.
Thank you for your valuable question. As you said, when the fuel, including sulfur, combusted incompletely, PM is emitted accompanied by sulfur SOx. So in this year, when IMO 2020 implemented, the effects of reducing PM is also it will be also occurred, but in IMO 2020, that policy cannot reduce primary PM. So in this timing, we would like to propose the post IMO 2020 proposal.
And plus, for the aforementioned answer, the intention of our presentation was in the situation that PM emission from ship has been serious. So this delegation contemplated that the independent direct regulation for PM in MARPOL would be necessary.
All right, so we will move to next question. Oh yeah, if you have any more comments.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Anyhow, the International Shipping Society is much burdened to implement the MAPR Annex 6 for the implementing the self-content of the fuel oil. But I think if your proposal have the going through ahead, you need some more knowledge to persuade the shipping industry why your proposal have to need. So in my opinion, that is a little bit lack of the persuasion in terms of the shipping industries. Thank you.
I think, yeah, I totally agree, yeah, because the shipping, especially owners, are having a lot of pressure on their unexpected cost. So anyway, I think that is too difficult question, so we should change the question. So if you have any other questions, troubleshooter?
Hello. Those are great presentations, and I agree that in the 21st century and for our generation, the environmental issue is very important. But there's a saying in international society that the rich one is trying to stop from the poor to get rich by making a reason of environmental issues. For example, like a month ago, the Brazilian government started burning the Amazon jungle. And when the European Union starts condemning about it, the Bolsonaro president, the president of the Brazilian Republic or something, he said that Brazil had its own rights to make an economic development, even if it has to destroy the environment and everything. So I guess the third world maybe not agree with you because they believe the economic development is much more important, and they may see this kind of suggestion as a stopping or even a sabotage by the first world. And even the IMO headquarters is in the London. So what I'm wondering is that when a third world country's president or delegates come to, for example, Brazil, when a Brazilian president comes to you and says that, I understand that you're concerned, I understand that there's been a lot of pollution about the ships and everything, but the Brazilian Republic doesn't really care about it because the economic issue is much more important for us than the environmental issues. And considering the IMO is not really the Earth's government or something, and it doesn't have any rights to force the states to make some kind of a policy for them. I'm just wondering what are you going to say for them, and I don't know, is there any kind of solutions for those international disputes?
I'm really sorry, but I couldn't understand what you mean. So what's your question?
So the poor one doesn't really care about the environment than the economy because it costs a lot, and your solution costs a lot.
Okay, so your question is how people can emphasize more on environment than economy, right?
No, it's more than how the IMO could force or at least talk through to make the poor governments to do such thing.
Did you get it? Sorry, my English is not enough.
Moderator, I think.
I think he's mentioning about the regional differences in the need of the VSRP and other policies.
Okay, yeah. So some countries prefer
Underdeveloped
economy
countries
and
doesn't want that,
yeah.
that
So
much
yeah, I
because they are
understood.
focusing on their economic development.
So maybe we can ask like, how can you balance between economy and environment issues, right? How can you balance it?
As far as this delegation discussed, actually, the economic benefits of the PM reduction is much greater than the input cost for the PM control from the ships. And we would like to have some further discussions, and we hope this kind of matter will be adding into the terms of reference after this assembly. Yeah.
I think that is very difficult to compromise between developing country and already developed country between them. I think common but different responsibility and no more profit treatment is quite too hot issue in IMO as well. I think that is we have to compromise in the viewpoint of two different views, I think.
Yep, thank you for your comments. Time is up, so thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
could
please
we
return.
have a last comment?
Very quickly.
Okay, last but not but least, this delegation has laid the IMO motto, sustainable shipping for a sustainable planet, in our hearts. At this point, the important one is missing. That's PM. So after this time, not only this delegation, but also all the honorable delegations here should contemplate and consider on these environmental problems. Thank you very much for your sincere attention again.
Thank you.